Let's get ready to rumble!
To answer Amir Khan's question, what is the bigger fight? Out of his fight against Danny Garcia or Dereck Chisora versus David Haye? Well, I don't have to take a poll on this one, yeah? Make a swift assessment by looking at the boxing news cover. David Haye and Dereck Chisora have virtually the whole of the cover. Amir Khan and Danny Garcia have maybe, I'm not good at breaking shit down into eighths and quarters, but they have a little section on the top, a small little section on the top. So, you tell me, what's the bigger fight? In the UK at least. In the guest column this week, we have Emanuel Stewart. He says that Vladimir Klitschko right now is unbeatable. The only threat that Emanuel sees in America is Deontay Wilder. He says Seth Mitchell punches like a heavyweight at least, but he doesn't really give him much props. And it looks like Chris Arreola will be fighting Vladimir next. Ideally, Vladimir would like to fight Dereck Chisora next, but Vlad believes that Haye will be too fast and explosive for Chisora. And from Emanuel Stewart's point of view, he would like to see Dereck get the win as well, because it would be a new challenge for Vladimir. You know, because Vlad's already beat Haye already. I just want to say, and this is not directed at Seth Mitchell in particular, it's only because he is in the article and it's the nearest example I can find right now to fighters in his situation. Now, Seth Mitchell spent most of his youth honing his sporting prowess into gridiron, not boxing. He turned to boxing when the first sporting dream didn't materialize. Now he became a heavyweight. He's undefeated in over 25 fights, and he can punch. He's a strong guy. And in my opinion, him fighting another 5 fights is not going to turn him into Lennox Lewis. He's not really a finesse fighter. So to me, him fighting another 5 fights when he already got decked by Chaz Witherspoon, who's not probably rated in the top 20 in none of the governing bodies. Maybe he is, but I'm not sure. What if in his next 2 or 3 fights, he gets hit on the chin by some nobody and taken out? He can forget fighting for the championship. He can forget it. He's promoted by HBO. He has the machine behind him. It's time to go now. Now, I don't know if any of you remember a heavyweight named Alex Garcia. You probably don't. And let me tell you why you don't. In the 90s, Garcia was running through a lot of D-list competition and club fighters. And he got offered $4 million, I think it was, or a good few million at the time, to fight either Riddick Bowe or George Foreman. Can't remember which one of the two it was. Garcia turned down the fight, thinking that he had time to develop his craft more and more. What happened to Garcia? Within 2 fights, I think he fought, or his next fight, he fought this journeyman named Mike Dixon, a tough guy. He had been beaten by the likes of Lennox Lewis, Ray Mercer, and a lot of people were just using him as a punch bag. And Mike Dixon knocked out Alex Garcia in 2 rounds, brushed him aside. And that was the end of his career. I'm sure right now, unless he had a serious business acumen or something, he really regrets that he didn't take that money. You know, there comes a time where you just got to cash your chips in. On the panel this week, we have Shannon Briggs, Nathan Cleverly, Cornelius Bundridge, and John McDermott. Who do you think will win out of Haye and Chisora and Garcia and Khan? Shannon Briggs, he goes for Khan, but he chooses not to answer who will win out of Haye and Chisora, saying that they disgraced the sport in Munich. Now you see, a lot of people put their foot in their mouth. Shannon Briggs, wasn't you the same guy who broke some gridiron player's jaw at some party, which had nothing connected to do with boxing? Nathan Cleverly, if Haye doesn't stop Chisora in the first 5 rounds with his explosive power, Dereck could secure a late victory. And as for Khan, I think he'll be too fast for Garcia. Bundridge, he says, Haye's the favourite, but Chisora will make it tough, and Khan will have too much skill and experience for Garcia. John McDermott, he says, I can see David Haye winning in 4 or 5 rounds. Garcia and Khan will be interesting, but Khan should be able to use his speed and secure the victory. The next question is, who do you think Vladimir Klitschko should fight next? Shannon Briggs says, other than myself, I don't see anyone else out there for him to fight. There are no other prospects. Nathan Cleverly, he says Tyson Fury deserves a shot. Cornelius Bundridge, he says Seth Mitchell or Jonathan Banks. John McDermott doesn't see anybody out there who can beat him. Possibly Tyson Fury should get a shot in his opinion. Boxing Beats and Rhymes says all of the heavyweight fighters who are being touted as being able to give the Klitschko's a test. Seth Mitchell, Deontay Wilder, David Price, Fury. None of them seem too keen to step up and take the challenge. And Vitali's going to retire soon, more than likely. So, once again, got to cash them chips in. We go to the letters and tweets. Barry McGuigan on the tweets says Kell Brook showed great skill and courage and heart against Carson Jones. Matthew Hatton, he says the same thing. Stephen Max at Stephen Max Boxing, he's not impressed with none of the American challengers at heavyweight. He prefers Tyson Fury and David Price. Derry Matthews at Derry Matthews, not making no excuses for his loss against Gavin Reese. He says the better man won. Amir Khan at Amir King Khan, he just said he'd done his 2nd random drug test whilst in training camp. He says he's happy to cooperate as the authorities attempt to clean up the sport. Is that urine or blood test though? Because a lot of people are saying, yeah, I'm taking drug tests. But a urine test y'all take. And we all know that's just not as effective as blood. On the letters, Barry Jermaine, he's not too pleased with Jim Watt, Glenn McCrory, Richie Woodall, Nicky Piper, for what they had to say about Victor Ortiz against Cito Lopez. They believe that he should have carried on with a broken jaw. He does have respect for Spencer Oliver, who pointed out that Victor could have sustained permanent injury if he carried on. William Kay from Australia, he thinks that Felix Trinidad should have been included in Boxing News' 100 Greatest Fighters. He also inquires why Costa Tszyu and Jeff Fenech were both omitted. What he would do, he's Australian. My letter of the week, however, comes from Scott Robertson, who proposes a British and Irish Super 6 middleweight tournament to include Matt Macklin, Darren Barker, Andy Lee, Billy Joe Saunders, Martin Murray, and Paul Smith Jr. Well, I've been more or less saying the same thing. For a long time, I've been beating that same drum. And I agree 100%. You know, a lot of these guys in the list, they're jumping straight into world title fights when they need to seek superiority. Who's the best in Ireland, Britain, UK, and then move on to world level. Readers poll. Will the winner of David Haye versus Dereck Chisora deserve a world title shot? 55% say yes. 45% say no. Ray Foster. He says it's a weaker division nowadays, so why not? Seamus Hardiman. He says there's David Price and Tyson Fury to deal with too. Wesley Washington. He says yes. David Haye will deserve a shot at the title. He's the only one capable of taking the title. Stephen Davis. He says definitely not. They've both previously tried and failed. Will Abercrombie. He says he'd like to see the winner fight the winner of Fury and Price. And whoever wins that can face a Klitschko. Well, your problem there is that Fury is running from Price. So how are you going to get that fight? And I'm going to answer this and say, because to be honest, in the last 5 or 6 years, the only person who hasn't went into the ring against Vitaly or Vladimir and not been intimidated was Dereck Chisora. So why not? We go to the hit and miss section. In the hit section, we have at number 1 Lee Haskins, who defeated Stewie Hall on points for the vacant European bantamweight title. At number 2, we have Tony Conquest, who looked devastating against Leon Williams at the York Hall. Nonito Donaire comes in at number 3. He unified 2 titles at super bantamweight without looking too impressive. Now he's looking for bigger fish to fry. Guillermo Rigondeaux, anybody? Number 4, Fury looked in good shape against Vinny Maddaloni, although Maddaloni wasn't much of a threat. Fury made no mistakes. And on the miss section, Kell Brook. Kell was in total control for the first half of his fight against Carson Jones, then found himself in desperate trouble. At number 3, in the miss section, Kerry Hope. The Welshman's reign as European middleweight king was short-lived, as Gregors Proska reclaimed his title. At number 2 in the miss section, we have Ryan Aston, a gifted boxer, a talented amateur. He sparred with some of the best around, but Curtis Valentine caught him out in Sheffield. At number 1, Ali Adams, the latest boxer to be exposed as a drugs cheat in what is beginning to be a worrying, continuing trend. Now, I'm just going to go back in on the boxing news. You've got Tyson Fury, number 4 in the hit section, when just the other week, just like I was, you was decrying what a bad match it was. Now you've put him in number 4 in the hit section because he was in good shape against Vinny Maddaloni. He should be in good shape against David Price. He should be in good shape fighting some top-ranked British or world-ranked or European-ranked heavyweight that he's calling out. Yeah? So, it's a little hypocritical. The 10 count this week is entitled After the Brawl. At number 10, we have Mark Kaler versus Errol Christie in a 1985 London where racism was rife. Their words, right? Not mine. After Christie and Kaler brawled outside a press conference that even today could match the same intensity as Dereck Chisora and David Haye's brawl in Munich. They fought in the ring. Christie appeared to recover from an early knockdown, and he decked Kayla twice. However, Kayla survived the onslaught and recovered to win by knockout in 8 rounds. Number 2, Morales versus Barrera. After the pair exchanged blows at the press conference to publicize their second bout, Barrera evened the score in the ring. Not the best fight of the trilogy, but still a great fight, nevertheless. The fight oozed class and hatred. According to several sources, the grudge still runs deep today. Number 3, Ali versus Frazier. The second fight. The duo came to blows on the Howard Cosell show before their 1974 rematch. Frazier battled back after being rescued by an early bell in round 2 before Ali deservedly took the decision. Number 4, Bernard Hopkins versus Felix Trinidad. If there's one thing Don King enjoys, it's waving a little flag. But his grin was wiped off his face in Puerto Rico by Hopkins, who snatched that nation's flag and threw it to the floor, sparking a riot. Hopkins handed a beating over 12 rounds and knocked him out. I want to add a little extra bit of trivia to that fight, which a lot of people may not have known. Did you know that before the fight, Trinidad bricked up his gloves, Margarito style? Not a lot of people know that, like Michael Caine says. But yet, Trinidad is still a historic legend, spoke really highly, even today. And I feel sorry for Margarito. Not for what he did there, that was fucked up what he did. But he seems to be carrying the villain role around longer than a lot of fighters who have done just as bad things in the ring as he did. You know what I mean? Number 5, Mayorga versus Vargas. Ricardo's pre-fight tactics were to antagonize his rival to the point of explosion. Vargas took the bait, tearing into Mayorga at their press conference. But Ricardo had the last laugh in 2008 after an engrossing but not classic encounter, ending Vargas' career. At number 6, Mike Tyson versus Lennox Lewis. The two camps brawled at a press conference. Tyson allegedly bit Lewis on his leg. Lewis went on to outclass badly faded Tyson in 2002. At number 7, Herbie Hyde versus Michael Bentt. Herbie initiated the brawl beforehand. He went on to dominate the WBO heavyweight clash. Bentt was rushed to hospital after being KO'd badly, but he did recover without any ill effects. At number 8, we have Riddick Bowe versus Jorge Gonzalez. After Riddick threw an empty glass at Gonzalez's head in the build-up to their fight, he went on to dominate the action between the ropes. At number 9, Riddick Bowe appears again, this time against Larry Donald. In the build-up to the fight, Riddick landed what is commonly known to most African Americans as a two-piece off Larry's face. He then went on to dominate and win a lopsided 12-round decision. At number 10, we have the second fight between Audley Harrison and Danny Williams. At the weigh-in, they briefly exchanged punches before Audley beat Danny in 3. It remains Audley's finest result. I will never forget the Herbie Hyde-Michael Bentt fight. Not the ending result, that's not a laughing matter, But the build-up, when they started scrapping, behind, he ripped the sleeve off my man's suit. He just looked crazy. He looked fucking crazy. That shit was mad. That shit was just mad. Don't forget that. Wow. They're saying that Josecito Lopez is not fighting Canelo. But I'm going to assume that he is. Maybe this news came in late for them. A lot of people have cried down this match. But I actually have no problem with the match. I do think he could have fought Lara, Kirkland, I don't know. I haven't got all the ratings here. Or maybe even that guy who Kirkland beat recently, Molina. Or maybe Bundrich. But I do see it like this. If Lopez beat Ortiz, why should he not take Ortiz's prize? Which was a shot at Canelo. I don't get that. And I think sometimes, we make too much a big deal on catch weights. Now, if you're going to make the champion sweat down from the stipulated weight that the title is normally fought at, I'm not feeling that. That's wrong. But what you have to remember is cats like Henry Armstrong, they was jumping from featherweight straight to lightweight. No super featherweight division them days. From lightweight, he went to welterweight. No light welterweight them days. From welterweight, he fought Garcia, and I think he drew for the middleweight crown. No junior middleweight them days. So, okay, he normally fights at light welter, but he's not doing nothing different from what Armstrong, Bob Fitzsimmons, Ezra Charles, Ray Robinson, from what them guys were doing them days. If they could do that then, they can do it now. And he deserves his payday. In fact, a few people have referred to the match as a catchweight match. It's not a catchweight match. They're fighting it at the stipulated light middleweight limit. Cito Lopez is just moving up a division. That's all it is. This Keith Thurman must be quite a good fighter, because Ashley Theophane joins the ranks of Marcus Maidana in turning down a fight with him. Ashley reckons he won't be able to lose the necessary weight to fight the guy in time for July the 21st. TMZ apparently released pictures of Evander Holyfield moving out of his mansion. It's believed he owes $14 million on the property, which was sold for $7.5 million. I hope for Evander that this is not as bad as it seems, and that he's kept some of that cake that he earned in the 90s. I was just reading an article about David Price. I touched on it briefly last week. Sky Sports have dropped it, but that's not what I'm talking about. It's only I'm reading here, and I didn't really check for his age. He's 29, practically 30, yeah? He's not the age of what you would call someone a prospect. Tyson won the title at 21. This guy's 30. 6'9", he punches hard. He's probably at his peak now. Dwyer made a video talking about a similar topic line that I'm touching on here. Maybe it's time that you just get in there and do what you got to do. Because I'm going to be honest with you. You can fight another 15 confidence builders. Yeah? And I'm not going to say that that's a futile exercise doing that. That's a bit harsh. But let's face it. None of the 15 guys you're going to face are anywhere in Klitschko's league. So how will that prepare you to fight him? You're probably at your peak now. Maybe it's a good time to cash your chips in today. Because let me tell you what happens to a lot of fighters. When they become big fishes in small ponds, they pick up bad habits that the weak opposition cannot exploit. Making it drag on and making it drag on, and then saying, yeah, he's ready after another 3 or 4 years or whatever. It's not always a good idea. The IBF are planning a 4-man box-off consisting of European champion Kubrat Pulev, Thomas Adamek, Odlanier Solis, and Alexander Ustinov. I don't know if they're boxing each other all in that order, but that's so they can determine the next mandatory contender for Vladimir Klitschko.
My brother Vitaly and I are holding all of the titles in the heavyweight division.
I'll be interested in seeing how Brixton heavyweight, I think he's unbeaten, Dillian White, how he does against John McDermott in his next fight. There's no date confirmed or announced yet or venue. It seems that Antonio Margarito does have some friends in his own backyard. A small but enthusiastic crowd in Tijuana, Mexico, turned out to celebrate his achievements in his career. Nassim Richardson was not invited. Audley Harrison apparently insisted on drug testing that led to his May the 25th opponent Ali Adams becoming the latest British boxer to be caught taking a banned substance. Harrison spoke to show promoter Steve Goodwin after a bad-tempered weigh-in the night before the Brentwood bout. His temperament at the press conference and weigh-in caused me concern. He was so hyped. I knew he was nervous, but I became suspicious. His weight for the fight was 10 pounds above his normal weight, and it was all muscle. Steve Goodwin, the show promoter, he could only confirm that it's not an inhaler or a Mickey Mouse substance. Where's my belt? Jimmy Bivens would ask after he retired in 1955. He kept asking the same question until his death on July the 4th at the age of 92. Despite being the leading light heavyweight and heavyweight contender for much of the 40s, Bivens didn't even get a shot at either belt. He came from an era when world championships were not the accessible trinkets that they are today. His chances were limited further by World War and its effect on the sport. The champs of today, they couldn't even lick their own lips when I was fighting. I'm not bragging, it's the truth, is what Bivens said in recent years. There should be no doubt that Bivens' talents merited greater glory in a career that spanned 15 years, 86 wins, 25 losses, and a draw. Bivens recorded victories over Archie Moore, Ezra Charles, Joey Maxim, Melio Bettina, Gus Lesnovich, Billy Seuss, Teddy Yaros, and Charlie Burley. Now that's what you call a lineup, rude boy. Star-studded. When heavyweight king Joe Louis was slowed down by military service in 1943, Bivens was matched with another top contender, Tammy Moriello. The match was made so the victor could basically guard Lewis's championship until he finished doing his service for the USA. It was unofficial, but worth more than today's interim titles. Bivens blasted out his foe in 5 rounds, and newspapers in his hometown of Cleveland called him the Duration Champ, a name that stuck until Lewis resumed his reign 3 years later. By the time Lewis and Bivens met in 1951, they were both past their best, and Lewis won a unanimous decision. It was a non-title bout. Bivens was an admirer of Lewis until his dying day, but would never forgive the snub. All I wanted was a chance. I deserved a chance. Not long before beating Moriello, he beat a young Ezra Charles, and in 1945, he knocked out Archie Moore, only for the duo to exact revenge in multiple return bouts. On the end of a lengthy 78-inch reach sat two enormous hands that stopped 31 of his rivals. Although he was not a dynamite puncher, he carried deceptive power, particularly his left hook, which would land quickly without warning. Bivens took his trade very serious, almost to frightening proportions. He was rarely out of the gym, prompting his managers and trainers to implore him to rest. He ignored the advice. Jimmy found that his form inside the ropes was erratic. He later admitted that when he was bad, he could be beaten by any old ham and egger. He quit in the year of 1955, and in retirement he drove delivery trucks, and he was to coach youngsters how to box, always making them a roast dinner on Sundays. As time passed and Bivens grew older, he disappeared from the scene. In 1998, he was shockingly discovered by the police in urine-soaked bedsheets, 70 pounds below his fighting weight, covered in bed sores. His son-in-law, Daniel Banks, was convicted of elder abuse. A year later, Bivens had recovered sufficiently enough that he made the journey to Canastota, where his place in boxing history was rightfully sealed in the Boxing Hall of Fame, proving that the truest mark of greatness is the man inside the gloves, not the belts around his waist. Jimmy Bivens, 1920 to 1912. In the preview and prediction of Danny Garcia versus Amir Khan, the Boxing News rightly point out the unjust treatment of Jose Elucigen, who won an eliminator in September 2011 and should have done already had his shot at the WBC crown. I just hope Jose is getting good step-aside money. I just hope. Joe Gallagher, who is a British boxing trainer, he says Khan can win in 6 or 9 rounds. The Boxing News says it could be tricky, but Khan will win on points. We'll see.
A professional record of 15 victories, including 9 knockouts. He's the former Commonwealth British heavyweight champion from London, England. Ladies and gentlemen, Dereck. To my right, ladies and gentlemen, a two-time world champion, also victories by knockout, the former cruiserweight world champion, former WBA heavyweight
the most divisive fight the United Kingdom has ever staged will have headline writers poised to either champion the title credentials of the winner or condemn the loser to the obituaries of boxing. The pressure is now on David Haye and Dereck Chisora, 2 London heavyweights. The pressure is now on the Luxembourg Boxing Federation to make sure that Saturday's July the 14th event at Upton Park, the home of West Ham United Football Club, they have to try to ensure that the whole event run smoothly with no incident whatsoever. Now, I'm not going to get too deep into all of this shit. I've already done a breakdown and I've already done several videos on this potential fight. But I bet some of you didn't know that David Haye is 1.5 inches taller than Dereck. He also has a 4-inch reach advantage. This statistic, though, is quite fascinating. David made his professional debut on the 8th of September, 2002. Dereck made his debut on the 17th of February, 2007. But somehow David has only boxed 9 rounds more than Dereck. It's quite fascinating. David's boxed 114 rounds and Dereck 105. David is 31 years of age and Dereck is 28. Now, I don't know if they superimposed this picture where they're facing off in what looks to be a dark room, or if they've used some kind of Photoshop, because they've been using an iron fence to separate them so far. So I don't know how they managed to do that. But if all the measurements are correct, from what I'm seeing there, David looks quite a bit bigger than Dereck. I don't know how telling that will be in the fight. I still expect Dereck to be fighting like he has the more physical strength of the two, coming forward, trying to bully David around the ring, etc. Another thing that most of us expect is David will be looking for room to throw his bombs. But I'm not going to say too much because I'm going to leave my breakdown and prediction video in the description box. So all roads head to West Ham on Saturday, and I'm really looking forward to this fight. Peace out. Peace.